Hey, welcome back, Knicks fans. Want to recap the 2022 draft for the New York Knicks. And, the fan base is a little split on this, but I think most of the fan base, it sounds like most of the fan base is really pissed about the draft. Definitely understand why. And then you have a very small group of fans and also YouTubers that are basically supporting the decisions by the New York Knicks. And just kind of wanted to recap what happened draft night and where I think they went wrong and what a lot of the Knicks fans are seeing. It's definitely an issue. I feel like the draft was an issue, and the problem is because of the screw up this draft night or the decisions they made this draft night. It just starts to bring more into focus all the previous mistakes that this regime has made because we're coming off a losing season. And because we're coming off a losing season, if we have another losing season, there's the risk that, the Knicks may have to clean house, right? That Dolan may fire everyone. And that's a real concern for everyone. I think a lot of people are reacting to that. People want, the first year under Thibodeau and Leon Rose, we made the playoffs, right? Second season, the team basically took a huge step back because of bad decisions the front office made, and then also a bad decision by the coach and bad coaching that happened in the second year, and now in the third year. One thing that we did realize that this team does need more talent, and if you don't think this team needs more talent, you really just need to look at the stats. I really do love our team. I love the young guys we have on this team. But however, if you look at the guys that are responsible for the bulk of the productions on this team, the guys that get the most minutes and take the most shots, look at these minute distribution. Let me see if we can rank this by number of minutes played. And then we're going to look at what they're shooting, what each of these players are shooting, right? And so that's kind of what it comes down to. So essentially, the best players on our team, at least not the best players, but the guys that are getting the most minutes are shooting terribly. They're not efficient on the offensive end. And that's a huge problem for the team, right? And so the team has to do something about it. So let me just take a quick look. I'm just going to sort this by column E, which is number of minutes played. And if you look here, Julius Randle was at the top of the list. He shot 41%. RJ Barrett shot basically under 41%. Evan Fournier, 41%. Alec Burks, 39% from the field. Mitchell Robinson, he's the only one who shot pretty well, but he doesn't get a ton of shots. I think he averages about 5 field goal attempts a game. Emmanuel Quickly, he's one of the first guys normally off the bench. He normally averages about 25 minutes a game, 39% from the field. Obi Toppin, he's one of the guys, he doesn't get a ton of minutes. The coach is like, just basically doesn't like this kid. The kid is shooting 53% from the field. So basically the point I'm trying to make is the guys that are responsible, that take most of the shots on this team, Mitchell Robinson is not one of them. He only averages 5. But it's these guys, Julius, RJ, Evan, Alec Burks, Emmanuel Quickly, and then you go down to Derrick Rose is injured mostly. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Those guys take the bulk of the shots, and none of them are shooting over 42% from the field. That's just horrendous. And so what that means, like, you just need more offensive talent on this team. And so that's why in a draft, when you're lacking offensive talent and when you're struggling, you just need to pick the best talent available. You can't think about oh, I think we're really stacked at the center position. Yeah, you have a great center in Mitchell Robinson, and then you have actually a decent center in Sims who can actually be pretty good, but you don't know if Sims is going to be really great, right? So why not just take Duren? And if Duren is great and you got 2 great centers, you trade one of them if both of them are balling out, right? And so this is more about managing the players you have, the talent you have. And if you manage them and you play and both of them show you something, you just play both of them. But the problem is they have this crazy coach, Tom Thibodeau, that will just bury someone on the bench because he's used to someone else or he likes someone else. I mean, that's just not a good way to manage an organization. But going back to the draft, right? And so I think that's one of the things that people are very concerned about because this team is lacking offensive talent. And they had the 11th pick and they did not make that pick. The other problem is they traded away the 11th pick, right? And they traded away essentially. So they, at the end of the night, they traded away the 11th pick and ended up with uh, a 2023 pick from Detroit that is protected first to 18, 2023 first round pick from Washington protected 1 to 14, and then a 2023 first round pick from Denver protected 1 to 14, right? So at the end of the day, you got three picks back that was heavily protected, right? Actually, that wasn't what you got back at the end. I'm sorry, I screwed that up. It was a 2023 pick from Detroit, 1 to 18, right? That's correct. 2023 pick from Washington, 1 to 14, and then a 2025 pick from Milwaukee, 1 to 4 protected. Milwaukee is not going to be bad to the point where we're going to be able to get like a high first round pick from Milwaukee in 2025. That's the only good pick that we have. That's if Milwaukee falls off the cliff, right? But the other two are basically worthless, and that's what a lot of the guys on YouTube, when they're trying to defend the Knicks and the decisions they made in this draft, and they're like, one person I truly respect and I value a lot of his opinion says, "Oh, like we had one draft pick, now we have three first round draft picks." No, if the three first round draft picks are heavily protected, it's garbage. There's a very low probability that we actually get a first round draft pick out of those basically a good first round draft pick. Actually, out of all three of them, the chances are they're going to be worth basically you're going to get like second round talent out of there or maybe some role player. So essentially, you traded away a number 11 pick, and you're never going to get equal value. The probability is you're not going to get the equal value that you would have gotten this year from the pick you took from the from the player you would have picked at that 11 spot. That is the problem. And so that's what I think people are not missing. I think people just don't. I think that some of these people do understand it. I just think because a lot of these guys they love the front office. They've made up nicknames from Leon Rose. They keep talking about Brock Aller like he's this genius. Brock Aller and the analytics team for New York, like they're these geniuses. Yeah, that analytics team gave you Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier. That was their first big move. And like, how was that really? I've looked at the analytics, the advanced stats analytics on Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier. There's nothing about those two players that would have told you that they were going to be a plus. They were going to help the Knicks take the next step into the second round of the playoffs. People forget that. We made it to the playoffs, got bounced in the first round. In the offseason after that, the front office made a decision to improve the roster. They let go of Bullock, right, defensive player, because they felt like they needed a little more offensive flexibility, a better player on the offensive end. And they thought if they can get someone who is much better on the offensive end, maybe not great on the defense, that it would basically, the offensive output would basically offset the defensive liability. That did not happen because they picked Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker. I don't know what on God's green. I went back and looked at the stats to see what these guys might have been looking at. I don't know what this analytics team was looking at. It was the dumbest move I've ever seen in my life, right? And in hindsight, there were a lot of NBA analysts on ESPN that criticized, that didn't really like this move, that just thought it was like, that weren't excited about it and thought it wasn't a great move, and thought like that even criticized it, right? And but the Knicks went with it, and so that's the other reason. That's the crazy thing about it, I guess, because everyone. So I guess because a lot of these guys love the front office. They've made up nicknames for these guys. They love these guys, and so now they feel like these guys can't do any wrong, although these guys are making like stupid mistakes right and left, right? And so I didn't mean to get off tangent, but that's kind of really what the point there was, right? And so these guys, they just can't, they just don't want to criticize this front office and when they make bad decisions. And then, the one thing I'm really starting to realize is like with these guys is like, especially with the front office, is they're doing all this stuff that's extremely complicated. Yeah, they may like maybe they really understand the ins and outs of caps and on the of salary caps and all that stuff and the rules for the NBA. But sometimes you can basically, as yeah, you're smart and you know all the rules and you understand all the cap regulations and everything for the NBA, but you can still make really stupid decisions. It doesn't mean that you know how to win basketball games or you know how to make the right trades. How did that help you last season with Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier? And you're looking at this now, it's like all these really confusing moves that they made, right? It was very difficult for everyone to follow it. And it makes you even feel uncomfortable. Like it makes you feel uneasy, makes you feel like, okay, what am I? It was extremely confusing. But at the end of the day, when you really look at it, they give up a surefire 11 pick and the probability is you're going to get basically lesser talent in the future as a result because you're not going to get anything that's like they're not going to get an 11 pick out of this in the future. They're not going to the two that are heavily protected, we know for sure it's not going to materialize into an 11 pick, right? And then the one that they're getting from Milwaukee that's protected 1 to 4, the chances are Milwaukee is not going to be a lottery team in 2025. And so the chances are that pick that you're getting from Milwaukee in 2025 is going to be like in the 20s, high 20s. So that's essentially you're going to be getting a second round talent. So that's what a lot of these guys defending the front office, they just don't realize. This is just the dumbest move in the world. These are just really dumb moves at the end of the day. I don't care what they say. If it's to move salary, to basically have salary space, maybe they have like an inside track on someone that we don't know. Maybe that's what it is because it's clear they're trying to move money around so they can create salary and cap space. So that could be one thing, right? Obviously, it seems like there's another move coming. We'll see what that is. We'll see what that move is, and we'll see if that move actually if that decision or whatever they player that brings in actually moves the needle, right? And so that's going to be the interesting part about it. Then the other thing, actually, I do kind of feel for the front office with this draft because honestly, the draft actually fell really crap, fell in a really crappy way for them. All the talent went before the 11th pick. All the like, at least in my opinion, the guys that I thought that would have been decent for good for the Knicks, they went because at the wing position, for me, it was really at the wing and guard position. I really only like for me, I only like Jaden Ivey and Johnny Davis. Everyone else, I'm not that high on Benedict Mathurin. I could be wrong. I could be, people can call me a crack addict, but Benedict Mathurin looks like, to me, he looks like a very athletic 3-and-D player. That's just what he feels like to me. And so Johnny Davis for me, I feel like it's Johnny Davis and Jaden Ivey. And Johnny Davis to me, I don't know, man. I like him. I think he's the best. He was the best value, but the draft just fell the wrong way because I think the teams ahead of us did an excellent job scouting, and they just basically scooped up all the talent. They were the only person that fell. That really fell was like Duran Jalen Duren, and which the Knicks did have, and then proceeded to trade it to Detroit, which I will talk about again later. And that rant that I'm going to do on that later is going to just be me being petty, right? And so, but that's pretty much, I think that's where I kind of feel for the front office because it's like all the talent that I thought the guys that I thought the Knicks were going to be able to, that was going to be able to help the Knicks, they kind of, moved early, and so I knew Jaden Ivey was going to be way too expensive to get. I knew they were going to be able to get him. Like these teams, I think what a lot of Knicks fans are not realizing, the guys that got their hopes up thinking the Knicks were going to be able to move up. Um, a lot of these guys, I mean, these teams are just not they're in the lottery because they're not that great. So they value their picks. They're not going to give up their picks. When you're in the lottery, you got to make that damn pick. You got to fucking, swing for the fences. You got to make that pick because it's not like there's you can't, it's not like you're going to be able to trade that pick for like a very, like a talented player that's going to move the needle for you. It's very hard for that to happen. So you got to take that pick. That's why you're there in the draft. And so that's where the Knicks make a huge mistake. When you're there, you got to take that pick because you're a freaking lottery team. You got to take the pick. And so that's why, like, I knew Detroit. I knew the Kings weren't going to give up that pick. I knew Detroit wasn't going to give it up. And then the other one too was like I really thought maybe we might be able to move up, basically swap with Portland or swap with Washington um, to get Johnny Davis. You know, that's for me. For me, I felt like I know people are saying like Jalen Williams was better than Johnny Davis. I mean, people are on crack. I mean, I'm sorry, that's just crazy. You know, Jalen Williams is not anywhere near close to Johnny Davis, in my opinion. Maybe I might be looking like I'm smoking crack a year from now. However, I'm just like Johnny Davis, like he's got it all. He's a three-level scorer and he's an excellent defender. And people think like, oh, well, you know, I think I like Jalen Williams a little better because he's got athleticism, and Jalen Williams can't use his athleticism on half court. People haven't even watched this kid play. I've watched some of this kid's tape. Jalen Williams can't even like. He's not athletic on a and he's very limited like in the half court. He's actually good off the dribble and shooting jump shots off the dribble, which is really good. But in terms of driving game, getting into the paint, he's not very good at getting into the paint. He's really not. And then on the defensive end, he's still got quite a ways to go. He's got long limbs. I saw the analysis on him where he's able to dig balls out and all that stuff. He gets quite a bit of deflections and also block shots in the perimeter, which is really good. But the problem is when you get physical with him, you can actually score at him. So it's not like he's like a shutdown defender. You know, I think he's more like if you're not careful and you don't basically look out for him, he's gonna block your shot or steal the ball from you. But good offensive players are going to be able to do whatever they want. Even decent offensive players are going to be able to handle him pretty easily. He's not very strong either. And then I've never like on the offensive end too. When he's on offense, I never see him by basically use his athleticism on the like on a half court, right, to either blow by someone and dunk it or even finish strong. I just don't see it. You know, I haven't seen him even drive to the basket a lot. You know, so I don't know what people are seeing there. Johnny Davis, he does all that. He gets to the basket, finish right hand, left hand. He can post you up from the mid range, post you up down low, right? And it's like he can shoot off the dribble, right? He struggled this year from three, and that's the only downside with Johnny Davis. He struggled from three this year, which I think is more of an anomaly this year because like his freshman year he shot very well from three, and then this year he's very tunnel vision. You know, so that's my biggest concern with Johnny Davis. He's extremely tunnel vision. He does remind me of RJ, but except with whatever. But he finishes better than RJ at the rim. Way like I think he's a better finisher than RJ at the rim. And actually, he goes up stronger than RJ. RJ gets his shot blocked quite a lot. Johnny Davis, I think, will be fine at the NBA level. Will be able to like finish a lot better than RJ would. And he kind of gives me a first. He gives me a freaking like. He gives me a all-star vibe, man. He really gives me that vibe. But anyway, we don't want to get too. So the reason why I talk about Johnny Davis too is because like I think it would have been too expensive for the Knicks to move up to get him, although it was one spot up. It might have been because like Bradley Beal, I think he opted out. It looks like Bradley Beal's leaving Washington, so I don't know if Washington would have given up that pick, or they probably would have like really. They might have really asked for a lot to give it up. But honestly, I think the Knicks like they should have tried. I don't think the Knicks tried to tell you the truth. It doesn't seem like they even tried to get Johnny Davis because he was only one spot up. And so that's the other criticism I kind of have for them. But I don't know if they would have been able to get it. And so it's really crazy to look at that, right? And so then you go into actually we kind of discuss what they actually did. So I don't want to recap that again. What the moves they made and actually trading that 11th pick and what they got back. I kind of do want to go over each of the moves that they made step by step, like so, because I know people are going through defending. I kind of like went through basically what they ended up with at the end of the day. Um, let's kind of go through each of the moves, right? So the first one was like when I guess they basically picked up Usman Dieng, right? Sent it to Thunder, and the Thunder gave them 2023 first round pick, protected 1 to 18, 2023 first round pick from Washington, protected 1 to 14, 2023 first round pick from Denver, protected 1 to 14. So now they're at the 11th pick, right? And so these picks that they're getting from Oklahoma, which is coming from all these other teams. None of them they're never going to be an 11th pick in the future. So that's the first thing. So you're actually, it's almost like you bought something. Yeah, you bought something at $1 and now you have to sell it at 80 cents. That's pretty much what happened, right? And you're basically selling at 80 cents and you're hoping the value goes back up or whatever. Like you're selling at 80 cents and then you're hoping you can use it to buy something that's going to be more valuable than $1 in the future. So I just I don't know. That's the analogy I'm going with. It doesn't make any sense because this move doesn't make any sense, right? You can't basically send away an 11th pick, right? Just scrap an 11th pick and then accept essentially like three 14 picks. Two of them is 14 and then one is an 18th pick. I mean, and it's just ridiculous. And so it just doesn't make any sense to me. And they're all like basically first round protected, right? They're all protected 1 to 18, 1 to 14, 1 to 14. And so if you go through all these years, right, and these teams suck, right, and they're in the lottery all these years and they keep picking above 14 and above 18, I think usually it turns into like a second round pick after like it expires. So um, it's pretty crazy. Although I think the chances are they do get to make a pick, but these are basically going to be late round picks for the most part. That's really what I think is going to happen. Because if these teams like if Detroit, Washington, and Denver ends up improving, we know Denver is probably going to be fairly solid, and so we're going to make this pick. But this pick we're going to be getting from Denver, that's really going to be like a late 20s pick. And then you know what's even crazy? So that Denver pick, I think they even traded that Denver pick away. So then what they do next is they purchase they purchased the 11th pick and they were able to get that 11th pick by trading away that Denver pick, right? Okay, so they basically sent that 2023 Denver pick, which was 1 to 14 protected until 2025, right? And then they also sent it cost them also 4 second rounders, and that's what they used to get that 13th pick from the Hornets. So they sent all this to the Hornets, honestly, which is not bad. It's like it's okay. So this Denver pick was definitely going to be. I think this Denver pick was going to be basically in the 20s, right? So it was actually a good move that they were able to flip these and then a bunch of second round picks, which is like that's a lot of second round picks though. But either way, they flipped it to a number 13. Okay, fine. I get it. So that was cool. But then where it got dumb where it got really stupid was after they made this trade, which was actually a good trade, right? I thought it was decent. Then they turn around and take that 13th pick and sent that 13th pick along with Kemba Walker over to Detroit Pistons. Now the Detroit Pistons, they've been trying to trade with Detroit Pistons like this whole offseason so they can be in position. They wanted to be in position. They wanted to get Jaden Ivey. So Detroit, nope, doesn't want to come off Jaden Ivey, right? And so they don't want to come off Jaden Ivey. They're like, nope, 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 nope. We don't want to do it. We don't want to do it. And then they turn around Detroit, who's in the same conference as you, right? They're in the same conference, and they really wanted Jalen Duren. And you turn around and do them this big favor and send Jalen Duren to them, And so when they sent that 13th pick and Kemba Walker to when they sent Jalen Duren and Kemba Walker to Detroit, they got back a 2020 the Milwaukee 2025 first round pick, which is going to be a pick that's going to end up in the 20s. So anyone who tells me that was a good trade, it's not. That's a dumb trade. Because basically if you call that a pick swap, you lost money. Like if you were swapping money, you essentially lost money in that one. You're basically swapping a 13th pick for something that's essentially going to be like maybe like a 25th pick, maybe 23rd, somewhere. You could say somewhere between like let's say the 21st to the 30th, because that's where Milwaukee is going to be picking from for a long time. So That's essentially what you did there. So it did cost you a valuable first round pick to dump Kemba Walker. So when they try to say, oh, it's just a first round swap, no, it's not. You're essentially swapping the value you're going to get in that late first round is equivalent to a freaking second round talent. So you're essentially swapping a lottery pick for a freaking second round talent. So that was where it got really dumb, right? And then basically, and I think, yeah, that was pretty much it. And so they essentially ended up, like I said, they ended up with like a 2023 from Detroit, protected 1 through 18. 2023 from Washington protected 1 to 14, and then 2025 from Milwaukee protected 1 to 4. Essentially, they're not going to get equal value for what they sent out for these three. They're not. They're going to basically be getting second round picks. That's what they're getting. Second round talent with all these stupid picks that they amass, right? And the only way a team takes these stupid picks is if someone they just need to get rid of, right? And maybe it does work, right? Maybe a team just needs to get rid of a player. They're tired of having the player, and they just kind of like, and they want to kind of bamboozle their fan base, like the Knicks are trying to, like the Knicks are basically bamboozling their fan base, right? Oh, yeah, we sent away our first round this year, but we got 3 first rounds. Like people can't read, like people are stupid. And so that's what essentially they're hoping like they do. They flip this nonsense to another team that's looking to freaking pull the wool over their fans' eyes as well, and not look like a bunch of idiots and not look bad for a previous decision or previous signing that they made. That now they need to dump someone, and it's not going to be someone of great value, right? It's always going to be someone like, if we're lucky, maybe Colin Sexton. If we're really lucky, maybe Colin Sexton. But I don't see Detroit. I don't see Cleveland going for that nonsense. But maybe they can. Who knows? But that's good. That's what it's going to be. It's going to have to be. It's not going to be a superstar, right? It's going to be like some kind of borderline player, like a probably a good player, right? Or could someone who could be a good player, but their team is just tired of that person for whatever reason, and they just need to get rid of that person. And so that's the only way this works. That's like last year we traded essentially Kevin Knox and like Washington's the Hornets protected first round pick for Cam Reddish, and people acted like we fleeced like we fleeced the Hawks for that trade. I'm like, please, it's like as much as I like Cam Reddish, but Cam Reddish hasn't, he's not a proven player, right? He still has a lot of work to do. He got a lot of talent. I do think he's going to be a really good player if they give him the chance and he puts in the work. I think he could be a really good player, but he's just not there yet. And the Hawks didn't need him, and they needed to get rid of him before he walked for nothing, right? And so that's the reason why the Hawks took that pick from the Knicks. And people forget we basically dumped we screwed up on a first round pick, which is Kevin Knox. Who knows? Kevin Knox probably could have been a good player. And see what I see with the Knicks, with a lot of these teams, it doesn't matter what talent they pick. They'll screw up the talent. Then that's what the Knicks do. The Knicks can't pick. They'll pick a talented player and just screw it up and just F it up. That's what they do. That's what the Knicks do. That's what the Kings do. These bad organizations, that's what they do. It doesn't matter who they pick. They could pick an all-world talent and they'll screw it up. They'll screw up that all-world talent. That talent would not be any good in 2-3 years because they'll have terrible coaching, no development. Because, that's the other thing. People act like these kids, these are kids. These are 18-year-olds. They're very committed. They love their craft. They're very committed. But these are not, they need someone to show them how to play the game. That's what people forget. They're 18, 19 years old. They still need to learn how to play the game. They're very talented, very committed. But now it's on you as the adults to show them the way, right? But bad teams like the Knicks, they screw up those players. So you have to be a very special kind of player who's got very good support for you to be actually any good in the NBA. Like especially to come out, let's say if you come to a team like the Knicks, you got to have very good support, right? You look at RJ Barrett, he's got pretty decent work ethic and he's got like a lot of good support. Comes from a basketball family, but he's got a lot of good support outside of the Knicks. So I think he's gonna be okay, right? And so, but not every player is like that, and not every player is like a LeBron James or Luca they're savants and they just understand basketball. They just know the game. You only get those players like once every 15 years, maybe, you know. or Chris Paul. They don't come around very often. And so, that's just kind of I mean, that's the thing that just drives me crazy about this whole draft, right? It's like it's just been insane for me to see it and to see people try to defend this front office. So, yeah, so the other excuse that people are making was like, oh, they're number one, we're just trying to get financial flexibility for to get, free agents or whatever or trades, whatever they need to do. Look, okay, I get it, but I don't really understand the cap space very well. However, I don't know if there's more than one way to skin a cat. I don't know if you can, if the only way for you to get cap space was by trading away your 11th pick, and especially trading away a first round pick just to dump a $9 million salary. To me, that was just silly. I just didn't understand any of that at all. So that's one excuse people were making. Then the other excuse they were making was like, oh, we have these players in our squad that need to be developed, and they need time and they need playing time. And then Tom Thibodeau, if we draft a player, they're not going to play him. So that's the reason not to draft players. I mean, so let's go over here and look. Let me tell you, let's look at this again. These two guys are the top guns on the team. These three guys, these four guys here, including Emmanuel quickly, these are the guys that are determining where the ball goes and who takes the shots. And they take most of the shots as well. So not only do they determine who gets the ball, right? They also take most of the shots on the team. These five players, look at what they're shooting. They're averaging like freaking 40% from the field. That is just you got. I mean, I just don't understand what people are looking at here. I think RJ Barrett would improve if he keeps working. He needs to work on his shots. He needs to work on his shot selection. But if he keeps working, he's gonna. I think he's gonna improve. I see some great things about him. But let's not fool ourselves, folks. He's shooting less than 41% from the field. He needs a lot of work. If RJ Barrett is our number one option, and which I would prefer him being the number one option. But to tell you the truth, if he's the number one option and he shoots 40, going to be a lottery team again, you know? So you need to draft talent. You need to draft talent. You need to draft people that are more efficient on the offensive end. That's what you just got to do. You got to draft efficient offensive players. You just got to do it. If that means you go Malachi Branham, fine. You got to do that. So you got to find good offensive players. That's why it was important for them to make that pick because you look up and down his roster. The guys that are taking most of the shots, it's just not happening. Like now, if you tell me, the thing I've been preaching all the time is like, it's too easy, right? It's like, if these guys, you find the guys that are the most efficient guys on your team, like in this case is Mitchell Robinson and Obi Toppin, you get them the damn ball. You make plays for them. You get them in a situation where they can score for you. Like Mitchell Robinson should be getting more lobs. Like or even like they should work with him on pick and roll where he's getting free runs at the rim. One dribble, drives hard to the rim and dunks the ball. The other person is Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin, he's got a lot more flexibility on the offensive end. He can put the ball on the floor. They got to use Obi Toppin more to do to shooting 53% from the field. You know, so that's the stuff they got to do. If you're not going to pick any talent, that's what you got to do. If you're not going to pick good offensive talent. But if you're going to run the same nonsense you ran last year, and you're going to put Obi on the bench and have him play like 8 to 10 minutes, and then maybe once a week you might get him. You'll let him play 15, 18 minutes. If you're going to do that, then you need to pick some good. You need to make this 11th pick. You can't do this stupidity, right? That's what it is. I don't like. I've got a lot of people that I respect, a lot of good people I respect that I know I listen to that are defending this. And no, you can't defend it. It's stupid. It's really dumb because they're trying to look like there's none. They're not playing 3D chess. This is not 3D chess, and they're not playing it. You know, so I don't care what you say. I don't care what they know. That's not what's happening here. You know, and then there's the other thing. They've made a lot of decisions in the past. It brings a lot of those decisions. It kind of brings it forefront, right? So all these decisions they've made, they're starting to compound. That's the problem. You know, Even the decisions that the front office didn't make that Thibodeau made, it falls on the front office because the front office hired Thibodeau. And now if Thibodeau screws up again this year and is doing the same nonsense he did last year, right? Like not playing like the young guys or whatever, right? Or basically running, or like let's say then he decides to run Derrick Rose if Derrick Rose comes back, and he decides to run him in the ground again by playing him like 35 minutes a game, right? If he does all that stuff and then handicaps the team, and then he puts like Burks at the point guard or some crazy person at the point, like not a crazy person, but a two guard or a freaking wing at the point guard. If he does that this year again and they lose, they're gonna get fired. But that's why all this stuff, it kind of like it's adding up. A lot of this stuff is adding up, and so some people think, oh, these Knicks fans are nitpicking, they're too loud, and they just complain about everything. No, this stuff adds up. Like I said, it starts with like the biggest thing was like it starts with like is actually with Bullock, the Bullocks when they let go of Bullock. So you let go of your most versatile defender because you didn't want to guarantee the third year, 10-year, 32 million. I'm sorry, 3-year, 32 million, something silly like that. You're about 10 million a year. You're telling me you didn't want to guarantee that third year, as if that was that big of a deal, you suck it up, guarantee the third year, and you can just move him on the second year. You know, even if you wanted to move him after year one, it wasn't going to be like, oh my God, we don't want to take Reggie Bullock for 10 million. Who would not want to take a 3 and D, a great 3 and D player at 10 million a year? I mean, like I mean, that was just silly. And then people make it seem like there's some genius move behind that, not guaranteeing the third year, and it gives them some kind of flexibility. So what? Well, who are you gonna get? Like Zion Williams? Is that who you're gonna get? By not guaranteeing that third year, that extra 10 million on the third year, you're gonna get Zion? Please. I mean, like this is nonsense. That was the first big mistake. And of course, like the analytics team, like I said before, told them like the way to get to the second round of the playoffs was by picking up Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier. That was just the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. Honestly, to tell you the truth, I didn't even look into it until I didn't look into like the advanced analytics on both players to see what the front office was looking at until I think it was like early December. I started looking at it, or even, and then I realized, holy crap! Like I don't know what they were looking at. It was like this is just crazy. These guys just suck. And so that was a flop. So that's another huge mistake that they made, right? And then the other huge mistake that they made was like they basically go and get Cam Reddish, but then they sit him on the bench. Now, if you're getting Cam Reddish because you're trying to use him for trade bait, why would you sit him on the bench? That's the other thing too. Like the way the moves that they make, it almost like it has these expiration days. So they make these moves, right? And you want to use them, right? And you want to use them for like to get other players because you want to be able to get equal value or better value for the players you have, right? But you sit them on the bench, and if you sit them on the bench and they're not able to showcase their talent, then if you need to trade them, you're not going to get anything for them. So what are you going to get? Like a second round pick for for Cam Reddish, and then so it was just a lot of, and then when you kind of include a lot of the bad decisions the coach made, and them not being able to rein in the coach. And look, I get they're the GM, the coach coaches. Um, However, you should have known like if this is what your coach is going to do, and then you're drafting young players, and then you give them veterans, the coach veterans. What they should have done was trade a lot of those older guys, and they didn't do that. You didn't trade some of those older guys by the deadline, so at least the kids can get like playing time the rest of the year. And so that was their fault. That was their front office's fault. Yeah, Tom Thibodeau screwed like did what he does, but they could have had their thumb on a scale on that one by trading those older players, right? Or by having a conversation with Tom Thibodeau. Although they probably would have had the conversation. Tom's like, nope, I coach you, and you guys GM. You know, and so that was the other screw up, right? And so now, if you feel like you need to develop these young players, you got to make sure you move these old. Like as of right now, all these older veterans are still here. you know. And then not to even talk about, you got Obi Toppin. So you picked Obi Toppin and then kept Julius Randle. Now Julius Randle is in the way of Obi Toppin because the coach does not want to play Obi Toppin and Julius Randle together. That's another mistake that they made. So now what happens to Obi Toppin? Are you going to keep? They're not going to. It doesn't look like they're trading Julius Randle this year, unless all these protected seconds are a way to get rid of Julius Randle, which is a possibility. But it's like but he's in the way of Obi, and there's a possibility if they're not able to get rid of Randall, and Obi, they got to make a decision on Obi this season. What if Obi then decides to request a trade by the end of the season and be like, okay, they're going to keep Julius. I need to go play. I know I'm a very talented NBA player. I want to go somewhere else where I'm going to play. And so all these things just, they just have all these problems. They have all these problems that people aren't even really thinking about. And that could just it may blow up in your face, right? It's already been blown up in your face, right? Because of the season they had last year. And so now, if Thibodeau screws up again this year, they're all gone. I think they're probably all going to be gone if there's another losing season, because and they don't, honestly, and they probably deserve it. And so, even as Thibodeau starts to screw up and they decide to get rid of Thibodeau halfway through the season, I don't see it saving them their job. I don't see it saving their job. The only way it saves their job if they basically luck out and find another coach who's going to take this team to the playoffs after Thibodeau screws up the first half of the season. If they're able to turn around and they're able to get into the playoff, then okay, maybe. But if they're not making the playoffs, they might as well just pack their bags and go. I don't think they get they get another year. I don't think they get a fourth year if the Knicks don't make the playoffs this year. You know, guys, that's pretty much what I have, man. That's my rant on this draft. It was just a crazy draft. Just like a lot of fans, I am disappointed. It's just honestly, the thing that makes it really stupid is just like they're doing all these trades. They're trying to look like they're smart, like they're really doing something. There's like it's almost like some cheap magic trick. They're waving their hands over here, and then they're trying to pull out a quarter out of their pocket to make it seem like they just made a quarter appear. But it's just they're doing a bunch of nonsense over here, but they're ending up like at the end of the day they it just ended up with like something worse. And so they traded something. They traded a higher pick this year, essentially for a lower pick in the future. They're saying it's three of them, but it's even if those three picks materialize, they're not going to be of equal value of an 11 pick in this draft. It's just not. And so that's pretty much comes down to, hey guys, please like, subscribe, comment below. I'll be more than happy to respond. Can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Have a good day.